will have some questions.
That's
but let me start by asking a question to you. Maybe 50, 60 years ago, terrorists, whenever they struck, they wanted an audience without really killing many people. But today, terrorists are self-financed and they are heavily supported by some rogue states. And when they strike, actually, it can be a disaster. It can lead to hundreds of people dying and property loss and so on. Don't you think terrorism and its aftermath also could be included as one of the research areas of disaster research? That is question one. Question two, there is another bloodless disaster that can happen if these terrorists strike our communication networks, bringing the entire nation to standstill. I think this also could be another important area of disaster research.
Professor Jagdish Kumar, I'm really very pleased to know that you also include terrorism or terrorist activities as part of the disaster itself. If you go through my notes also on disaster, I have included that. And secondly, recently ICSSR in a very short time, ICSSR would be coming out with its priorities in research program areas also. And you would find terrorism and disaster management as one of our priorities also. That's one thing. And I can share with you that we have taken up some researches on behalf of the government and its various departments or divisions as also. And the kind of issues that you have raised, they are part of our researches already. And we are going to come out with that.
Actually, this is a very important question that our Vice Chancellor raised.
That's right.
That is the reason that we have distanced ourselves from everything else. The disaster is a disaster.
That's right.
Whatever may be the reason. So that is also one reason why we kept ourselves out of climate change, because there was a lot of pressure on us in the beginning that you should combine it with climate change. Then we combine it to so many other activities around it. But a disaster is a disaster.
It definitely falls within the framework of the conceptualization of disaster. That is serious disruption of life occurring in a short time, involving widespread loss of human life, infrastructure, material goods, and environment. So it is very much within that domain. Right.
You also participated in the World Social Science
That's
Conference when you joined.
That's right.
And one of the recommendations of the World Social Congress was, so far there's not a major contribution in social science from India. So I think this open invitation to everybody to put transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research aspect. Before you came, we talked about Economic Survey 2018, where Government of India itself has used big database, and that is being also analyzed and finally put into recommendation from economists and the social science.
That's right.
So I think that is a very welcome step, where there are synergies being made across the disciplines, technology and social science.
That's
and
right.
that can take up it further and can resolve the complex issues that we have been talking about. One of such is this, which has a transboundary issues.
That's right.
Across communities and so on. I think this is very welcome step from.
See, there is a strong realization that researchers can no longer be in any area, even in natural sciences, they cannot any longer be limited to their domain only. They have to go beyond their own boundaries, as I said. And the mindset of all researchers in various disciplines has to be like that only. That's one thing, and I'm very happy to share with you the kind of response in last 1 year that we have started to receive in terms of people's application for researches. You'll be surprised to know the task for us is getting every day difficult. In fact, this year we initially planned for awarding 160, 170 proposals, in fact, and we thought, and I went through statistics of last few years also. I would not like to comment on that, but this year in particular, we had more than 3,000 applications, and we had decided to do only 160, 170, but then with the cooperation of our very esteemed council members, we decided that we can go a little beyond that also, and we went up to 2011, and we had to make a selection out of more than 3,000. So that in itself, and the kind of issues that are coming up. I would like to emphasize here, there was a time then people were caught in their own domains and boundaries, and they were not going beyond the kind of issues they were beating for several years. Right? And now is the time that people have started to talk about new things. And since the very purpose of research is talking about new things, coming out with new creativity in terms of a new idea, new subject, and even new methodologies. Right? And people are really, unless there is interdisciplinarity, and people do not understand each other, that what can be your mind about this issue, it would be difficult to really put that in terms of research methodology in these kinds of interdisciplinary cases. That's one thing. And secondly, I'm very pleased to share with you that last 1 year, the growth rate of India's publications at international level, whereas the growth overall of the international publications in social sciences has been 4%, but India's rate of growth in terms of publication has been around 14%. So entire world is coming to this realization that in days to come, India can be and is going to be a major contributor. And this is why the interest of the rest of the world has started to get still more and is getting intensified, in fact, in research collaborations with India. This is why, again, I could share with you that entire Europe has constituted Europe-India platform. So India stands on the one side, and the entire Europe for collaborative researchers, they stand on the other side of the projects, in fact. So I think we have reasons to be happy about also, but there are also reasons which we could take forward to build a better understanding too. There was some more.
Thank you. I think this is a great opportunity to break out of our own silos.
That's
and
right.
to sort of engage with the sciences, especially coming
That's
from
right.
social sciences. I mean, just two dimensions from the perspective of international relations I thought might be interesting to consider. One, I think interest in studies on cooperation, international cooperation
That's right.
around disasters. I think there is generally a bias and a tendency to focus
That's
largely
right.
on conflict.
Right.
But there are also interesting models and occasions in which states have come together to cooperate when it comes to natural disaster relief.
Right.
Of course, here again, there is sometimes an element of competition. I think when you think about earthquake relief in Nepal, China and India, there's accounts of some element of who does more and who does it better.
That's right.
But by and large, I think there is scope to sort of also study international cooperation more closely. And one dimension relating to human nature, which is this question of empathy, which I think a lot of work in the sciences seems to be focusing on, particularly in the neurosciences and other areas. If we can look beyond just the sort of aggression impulse, the Hobbesian world in politics, to also thinking about the other end of the continuum, which is focused on empathy and issues relating to empathy. I think it might make for a very interesting possibility there.
Definitely, we are for that. See, international collaborations or international relations, they have to include all those dimensions. In fact, not only understanding each other in a better way. And I'm sorry to point it out again that in international relations we are still facing a problem of expert shortage. In fact, in various areas. When we see, for example, we did study China. How many Chinese experts are involved in studying India? So there are more than 300 Chinese who are said to be experts on India. But I'm sorry to point out, if we look at India, we could hardly identify 10-15 people who could be said to be expert on China. So there are problems like that. That's one thing. And secondly, international collaborations essentially mean understanding from each other's experiences, right? And this is why, in our collaboration with RC UK and ESRC UK, the issues that we have identified for future researches, they include urbanization and migration, right? Maybe in days to come, as Professor Jagdish Kumar also pointed out, the issues like international terrorism, right, they would figure in such studies, and we would also benefit from each other's understanding, in fact.
Professor, thank you for your nice lecture.
Thank you.
Very recently, UGC has made it mandatory for disaster course in each and every central university particularly. But it was not given in a very concrete way, which department is going to start that course. So do you think ICCR has to play a role to open this kind of center, particularly in some central universities?
See, I've been.
We are actually trying.
Yeah, I come to that.
Pressure on him to do something on that.
See, recently, or a few months back also, I wrote a letter to our Honorable Minister for Human Resource Development. And 2-3 days back also, I was in the Secretariat itself. And I did talk to the Secretary Higher Education and the concerned minister also. I'm arguing for the larger role of ICSSR in social science domain, right? And I've been very strongly arguing for it for the simple reason. I said that the very productivity, the very contribution of an institution has been put before the scanner. In those circumstances, if ICSSR, which has got a proven performance record in social science domain, could be given a better role. And then there was a committee way back in 2010-11 also, parliamentary committee, which did write in terms of or recommended the government of India that ICSSR's role in social science has to increase. So there is a committee of the parliament which is termed as Parliamentary Assurance Committee also, that is also making its point. So all efforts in that direction are going on, and we have to take a final call. I mean, the government quarters have to take a final call on that. Anything else? Right.
Sir, I was just, thinking and linking with what you were talking about China. And that is very true that we have more number of China scholars working on India rather than India scholars working
That's
in
right.
China. But one of the aspects which globally is happening is a reduction in funding as well as research on humanities. So there is a shrinking of funding for humanities and social sciences. Whereas in China, what is happening is an expansion on that. And I was wondering whether in India we are really going to look at more of social sciences as an expanded area, linking with, of course, other interdisciplinary courses like political sciences or technology and all of that. Is that going to be the focus for ICCSSR? Especially considering when I went to Vietnam also, there was this whole notion about ICSSR as being a very small scale in overall India, rather than at the national level where it's like a ministry level.
That's right.
It's not a ministry level kind of thing. So that is where they would want, if there is an expansion happening in ICSSR, so we can incorporate more of courses and open up centers which would be funded by ICSSR. Do you have research?
Definitely. I said that we have been arguing for that, and considering the size of task that is given to us, the funding corresponding to that task is very, very small. In fact, there is no doubt about that. It is the funding to ICSSR or social sciences researches is 1/10 of what is being given to ICMR, and it is 1/40th of what is being given to ICAR. So we have complete statistics on that. We are arguing for a case in social sciences, and before coming here, in fact, I was finishing my draft of a paper also, which has to go in this regard as well. So, I mean, your case is being very well defended by Indian Council of Social Sciences, as I could say that much only at this stage. And we are also arguing that the kind of funding that is given through social sciences, through UGC, should also come to ICSSR, in fact, because that's a better body to, and which has a proven record in terms of performance also. So we are arguing for that. Yes, please.
Thank you very much for bringing up a lot of interesting topics. So my thoughts were going towards predictive disaster research. When you're predicting disaster, rather than generating an emergency response. So what's the status of that, and are you looking at that as a research funding?
And definitely, I think as a student of economics also, we believe in predictions, and predictions help us to manage the things in a better manner also. So I think the kind of the use of information technology also that would also lead us to predict such kind of, especially natural disasters, not the man-made disasters which may not be so predictable because we may not have all those statistics or empirical data to work on that. But natural disasters could be predicted, and with the use of information technology, I think Professor Chintamani made a beautiful comment when he was talking about the use of drone, etc. I was definitely watching a documentary in which several people who had got stuck or whose bodies were not in fact found, and they were lying below the debris. In fact, they could not be discovered. So drones and that technology could be used for those purposes to save the loss of human life also. And the way Japan and Korea in particular, they have used technology and they have managed their own, tried to manage the disasters, the impact of disasters in their own economies. In fact, that could be of some use to us. I'm very, very hopeful that we would have people from Japan and China. Next time, I hope that we would have people from Korea also in this panel of experts who could share with their experience that how they have been able to manage the disasters or reduce the cost of the disasters in their own societies. Right. Thank you.
With the permission of Chair, we have Professor Champati Ray from Indian Space Research Organization.
That's great.
In afternoon, he is going to talk about precursors for earthquake.
That's right.
So they have a major program. So I think that is something how they are predicting one of the difficult aspects of earthquakes. And
That's
he is the
right.
head of the department for disaster relief.
That's
Space
right.
research.
That's an early warning system.
Yeah.
For tsunami, etc.
I think there's a session.
But it's really
In fact, when Professor Amrita Singh asked me to come here, I said that I would like to be more a part of the audience because I have very little to contribute, in fact, in this gathering. So sometimes it should also happen that funders or the heads of the institution, they are made to listen also about what is happening.
We get very few opportunities to corner ICSSR. So that's why.
That's right.
Sir, are we planning in the disaster management courses which you were saying that we're going to shortly have in various central universities, are we planning to have a course for media people and reporting? Because what they're doing, being from media myself, is creating panic, creating breaking news, but not making right disaster communication, which is done world over. Whether it is World Trade Center or something, what we'll show in a disaster, people crying, bloodshed and everything.
Right.
We need training, and the journalists forget to understand the support it can give in disaster management and risk reduction.
I'm with you in this view that sometimes media also causes small disasters, right? And tries to preempt the things. And Professor Chintamani was our Vice Chancellor was talking about impatience, right? So media people have an inherent quality of suffering from this kind of impatience. I believe that, and to my mind, this impatience is the result of lesser understanding. The moment you understand more and you understand the depth of the issue, there are hardly any reasons to get impatient about the thing, and you would definitely give a thought before you say or you write. So I think Professor Amrita Singh has got now another task, that in one disaster program she should be concentrating on the media people also, right? Where more issues about impatience and patience are also talked about.
Whatever courses, whether it is journalism, bachelor's, master's, we fail to have even one paper or coursework on disaster communication.
See, I understand. Recently we received a letter from Ministry of Information and Broadcasting itself. And I was very, very surprised to go through that letter that they wanted us to conduct some studies for the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. I went through 3-4 reports that were lying with us and analyzed that these reports virtually had done a wonderful work on the aspects that was being thought to be assigned to us. And we wrote back to the ministry that these are the reports available and you could go back to these reports and there are relevant chapters on the issue that you want us to work on, in fact, and you could derive benefit from those. So I think that kind of understanding really develops. The basic idea is that we should benefit from the existing body of knowledge and we should then try to add some value to that existing body. And that is very, very much desired in case of media, because the kind of stories that it blows out, they, as I said, if they do not result into full disaster, they sometimes do result into semi-disasters. Thank you very much.
I request researchers to give our first harvest, our produce from this new center to our respected guests.
I would like to request
Professor Milapunia and Professor Vagmati, please come and give the gifts. This is, this is about the writings and everything that your lectures convey. Actually, we have papers in this, and it took us a lot of effort to collect those people who could write on disasters. We got hold of one scholar in Sanskrit who could go through the Vedas in the earlier times and excavate information that it carried through, and we have overlooked them, we have not looked at them, and there is one paper from that. And from here to the legal experts, to the economists, and to political scientists, and to practicing administrators who had the experience of setting up, after the Disaster Management Act of 2005, setting up State Disaster Management Authority, which is the institutional structure to prevent disaster. They have also contributed. So these are the top cream of, and from Dhaka and from Pakistan and from our neighborhood regions, Afghanistan and all, they have contributed to this. So this is our first produce. 3 more are coming by this summer. One is on disaster economics, one is on the Northeast focus, and one is on development focus. These 3 books are going to come by this summer. And a journal we are starting, and we'll need your support, sir, for that. And we hope that the ambition is as ignited as it is today. Thank you very much, sir.
I would like to request Professor Milak Punya to honor our chief guest, Professor Jagdish Kumar, Vice Chancellor, Jawaharlal Nehru University. I would like to request Professor Vagmare to honor our chair for the session, Professor Chintamani Mahapatra. And finally, I would like to request Professor Bhupinder Joshi to kindly, as a token of appreciation, to our guest of honor, Professor V.K. Malhotra, Member Secretary, ICSSR.
I just wanted to also convey that we're coming up with a Palgrave Springer series of 3 books. This is first by Routledge, and the second book by Routledge, which is going to be first in the Asia Pacific, on terminologies and metaphors that we use in the studies of disaster, which nobody has done, so we are all collectively, trying to put the literature together.